for the gentleman to play that track for me.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Amen. Praise God. Amen. You're fine, praise God.
I'm sorry. I'm going to start it over.
That's Tim.
That's right.
No, sir, that's not it. You know what? Maybe my phone, Tim. I can use it. I can just pull it up from my phone. That's fine. I believe.
He can hold it to the phone, right?
That's fine. Yeah. I just want to share the message of the that song. This is fine, so we'll make it work. Amen. Praise God. I just wanted to share that because that song blessed me. And I read it said, believe in the promises of God.
Amen.
And it just jumped out at me, and I said, wow, they are all on it. Because that is the reason why I'm here.
Okay.
And so, just to tell you guys a little bit about myself, let me start from the beginning. And before that, let me just thank God for the opportunity to be here with Unity Christian Center today, the last Sunday of 2018. 2018 has had its ups and downs for, I'm sure every last one of us have our good and our bad. But we're here, and there is no better place than to be in the house of God on the last day, the last Sunday of 2018.
Amen.
We could be anywhere.
Glory.
But praise God. So I also want to thank Sister Murphy for the opportunity, and Pastor Matthews, and I met his beautiful wife out in the parking lot as we were pulling up this morning. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then I want to go back to the beginning. My name is Denise Parker Moore. Everybody calls me D. I have a platform called AskD.info. You can follow me on Instagram there. Just wanting to find a way to thank God for what he's done for me in my life.
Amen.
And he told me years ago that I'm going to do something in your life, and when I do it, you got to tell it. So that's why I'm here, is because it's so much easier to just sit back and nobody knows what happened. Or I have people asking me, how did you get to where you are now? Or, what happened in your life, and what did you do? And I didn't do anything but trust God. And I believed in the promises of God. He spoke a word in my life years ago, and he said that he was going to use me to break something off my family, and just all these different things. I would get word after word after word. I was raised by a single mom, and she, my mom passed away in 2002, and I actually, for the first time, had an opportunity to go to her gravesite. Long story, it'll be in my book as to why I didn't get a chance to. I was at the funeral, but me and my mom, we were best friends, and it was the hardest thing in the world for me to see her put in the ground. So I sat in the car, I just couldn't do it, and things just kept coming up in my life, and I never got back home. And then when I did go, and I went to the cemetery, and I'm standing there, and they're telling me how to find her, and I didn't really want to find her, because I wasn't ready. It took a very long time, but just a couple weeks ago, I went and I, put a wreath on the gravesite. So that was a big accomplishment for me, myself, a personal thing that I needed to do. But I was born in Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown is Ohio's second poorest city, ranked number 5 as U.S. poorest city. Wow. Full of crime, corruption, and there's a mafia thing that was there. They used to call the city Chicago. And as a girl, I didn't know. I lived in subsidized housing. People call it projects. We whatever little fancy name we can give it, so that we don't have to say we live in the projects. We just call it something. So we were in subsidized special housing. That's all, special housing. And that's where I grew up. And I remember my mom used to have a thing where she'd say, "Don't let the street lights catch you." Anybody know anything about that? Don't let the street lights catch you.
Amen.
It means she needs to, don't let the street lights catch you, and I knew what that meant. Because if the street lights caught me, I get the switch.
No.
If you don't know anything about a switch, and you got to pick your own. So when you get to pick your own switch, when they tell you it's bad. When you got to pick your own, because if you don't pick a good one,
No.
they gonna go back and pick it. And Mom used to be like, get your switch. Get your switch. You already don't. Just get the switch. Because then I already knew. And I try to get the little skinny one. And I used to hide. I had my hiding spots for the switches. Behind the washer and dryer. I used to put the switch behind. Well, let me take that back. It was a washer, not a dryer. See, we're always used to connecting the washer and the dryer today like they're a pair, like peanut butter and jelly. You know what I'm saying? They just go together. But back then, we just had a washer.
Amen.
So I had the switch, and I used to hide them and everything. But, it was a big thing. But my mom, she was amazing. She had 10 kids. I'm number 9. I was born the 9th month, and I was born at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. So 9 has been my number my whole entire life, and I didn't even understand why, but there's some more significant biblical things about the number 9 that I'm not going to go into, because the reason that I'm here is because of where I am right now.
Amen.
Because people are looking at glory side of my life, but before the glory came the story.
Amen.
And
There you go.
I was homeless just less than 3 years ago. I was homeless. I was living out of my car. I had just gone through a divorce of 25-year marriage. And I was divorced after that, and just trying to put my life together and just trusting God. And at the same time, God is just constantly, He has spoken words over my life that I was reaching back and grabbing. And one of the words that He spoke over my life was, my daughter was going to a art institute, and we went in for financial aid. And prior to that, I was on the internet trying to get a job. And I was struggling. I was having such a hard time. Everything, it just wouldn't go through. Every time I filled out the application, I go to send, it'd kick it back, or it'd freeze up, and then it'd start all over again, the blank. And I don't know how many people have filled out job applications, but it is tedious. Where they ask you all these questions, you put all that effort into it, and just for it to be lost on the internet, that's what was happening to me. So I wasn't moving forward, and it was time for my appointment, and I said, okay, I'll get back to this when I get back home. Now, this is prior to the divorce. This is prior to me becoming homeless. But things were hard then, but we had just moved to Charlotte. And when I went in for the appointment, this lady I'd never met before, she shuts the door, and this is financial aid. I walk inside. She shuts the door, and she looks at me, and she said, God said, the reason you're having a hard time getting a job is because you're not supposed to work for anybody else. You're supposed to work for yourself. You're supposed to create jobs. And I was like, whoa, where does this lady come from? I mean, I'm just coming here to help my daughter get in school. That's the only reason I'm here, is to sign the paperwork. And so she went into that, and then on top of that, she said, God said that, when it's time, He will provide the resources. He will take care of it. It's going to be Him. God's going to give you the house that you want. And she's just going on and on. Now, she's saying all this directed to me. My ex was there too, but she's still talking to me. Now, I'm still thinking that this is a team thing. I had no idea I was going to get a divorce. That was never part of the plan. But it's one of those things that happened. I got married young. We both did. We just kind of, and the enemy got into things and stuff happened. But here I am. And so just recovering from that. So I kept thinking back that God said the reason why you're having a hard time getting a job. Now I go through the divorce. Now I'm experiencing homelessness. I'm living in a hotel here and there whenever I could, or sleeping in my car, and things are happening. I'm trying to get a job. Remember the word that I said. God said the reason why you're having a hard time getting a job. Okay, that's still there. So I'm like, I'm homeless. Okay, God. So I go in to try to, I'm praying to God, but I'm trying to negotiate with God. Okay, I've been in real estate for years, so I'm a professional negotiator. So I'm trying. How many know that you cannot negotiate with God? When God gives you a word, it is non-negotiable. But I'm like, okay, God, so I'm homeless. I need money. I need a job. And I'm trying to get, when I tell you, even when I had a car, the car would break down on the way to a job interview. Okay? I was at Burger King begging them for work. Now, I used to have a position in Texas. I used to be a vice president of a company, and always in real estate, always in sales, doing something, but I knew how to make some money. I didn't know how. I couldn't make no money. Everything I tried, nobody would even give me a job. I couldn't get a job at McDonald's. I'm in the manager's face. The sign says now hiring. I'm here. I'm here to work, burgers, fries, anything. Give me something, anything. I just needed to make some money so that I could, just the basic necessities. And I remember just walking, because at this particular time, I had a lot of ups and downs. You know, I had a car one time, and that car was my mobile home, literally, because it was my home and it was mobile. And that was how I lived for a little bit, and then I lost it. I remember I couldn't afford to make the payment. It was one of those buy here, pay here's. How many knows that the buy here, pay here deal, they put you in those cars, you can't afford it, it's too high, it's worth nothing, but cost something.
Amen.
You know,
Come on now.
you know it's bad when the buy here, pay here repo guy come and get your stuff.
Amen.
Like I'm like, okay, you know they got one of those trackers on there. You know what I'm saying? And I got smart. Sister got smart. I disconnected the battery. I was like, they ain't gonna find me. I just need a little bit more time so I can come up with the money to make this payment. Like I'm being real with y'all. And so, and I disconnected the battery or whatever. And all of a sudden one day, the man showed up. And he's actually at the car. And he's like, do you have the money for this car? They sent me. He said, I hate to do this. You're so nice. You're such a nice lady. I hate to do this to you. But he did. You know what I'm saying? He hated to, but he did his job and he took the car. You know, so, but when I didn't have a car, now how intentional is God? So I'm walking. Like I'm walking everywhere, walking, looking for jobs and just walking. Walking became a big part of my life. But what God was doing was he was preserving my life because I had high blood pressure. So what was going on is while I was walking, and because I couldn't afford no medication, and I couldn't afford to go to the doctor, but he was taking care of me because I was walking, and my body was I was getting healthier by walking, and I was losing weight, and there I was. He was preserving my life himself. He was doing everything himself. He's so intentional. And so when I went through all of that, and it was just one thing after another, and I'm actually writing a book, so it's too much to tell all the details of, you know, when they say it's darkest before light, I experienced that literally because I was sleeping in my car and it got darker and darker and darker and darker and darker just before it was time for the sunrise. So I said, ooh, that's what they meant, you know, because I would park my car in the hospital parking lot because of security guards, right? But I had to lean back because I didn't want nobody to know I was in there. So I leaned it back as far as I could. And it was just, you know, because I was afraid. So I would want to go somewhere where it was safe. And during this time, the grocery store, you know, that was 24 hours. And places like that is where I would park my car. But during that time, God was dealing with me because all I could think about was other people. I saw a homeless lady. She was in the bathroom of one of the grocery stores, and that's where she would go in the middle of the night to sleep because she wanted to feel safe. But she didn't have a car, so I was more blessed than she was because she had a buggy. In her cart, she had everything that belonged to her was in that cart. And so I started thinking, okay, now how can I help her? And I started getting ideas and you know, so I'm working on a nonprofit organization now. But before I even got to any of where I am today, I had to go through a process. And so we have to learn to embrace the process. And that's what God taught me. I mean, I didn't ask for it because I went through I had a bad childhood. I mean, we went through a lot of struggles. I dealt with some abuse, things like that. And so I thought my story was already written. But God wasn't done with me yet. There was more. And there was things that he was trying to get out of me and lessons that he wanted to teach me. So let me fast forward and tell you where I am today. And then we'll step back just a quick minute. Today I am not homeless.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah.
God has blessed me with my own home with no credit, but I'm buying a house. Amen. How he did it is miraculous in itself. The house is a 6,000 square foot home on the golf course. I actually live on the 15th hole of the golf course. I know which hole that I live in because I'm in the hole. I'm in the cut, like right in there. And the house is, I have, it's like 5 bedrooms, I have a guest room. I have a room. My boys have a room. My sons, I had a son that graduated from college. He moved back home. So he now has a room. The house has a movie theater in it. It has a gym inside the house. All these things. Now, I'm not saying this to boast on myself because I didn't do anything. And if I sleep, I'm going to lose that. Okay? I'm saying this because this is what God did. This is all about Him, for Him to get the glory, because when He takes you to the place when you develop and you have a story, believe me, if you believe, there's glory on the end of that story. All you got to do is just keep walking it out. Just keep walking it out. Keep walking it out, because God is no respected person. It's not just about me. I'm nobody different than you. And I have always believed, like, when I was a kid, 6 years old, I remember going to an altar at church. It looked like the people were having fun. They were at the front of the church, and they were saying stuff like, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you. And they were getting all tongue-tied and stuff like that. And people were jumping up, and it was exciting, and I would just go up to the front. And I remember one time going up to the front, and I felt something. I was a kid, and I felt something. I was like, woo, and it felt good. It was just like this feeling. I didn't know what I felt. I was a little girl. And I remember then I just wanted to learn more and more and more about this person. The more they talked about it, and as I aged, I wanted to learn more. The desire was increasing, and the hunger, the thirst. I wanted this Jesus person. And I remember Jesus became my imaginary friend. He became my friend, just like, because I spent a lot of time alone, because I was like the younger, almost on that younger end of the family. My sisters were older than me. I was the baby girl. And for a while, I was the baby. My little brother was born when I was 9 years old. So I was a baby for a while. And I remember playing with him like, here, Jesus, here's your cup. And here's mine. Here's a piece of cake for you, Jesus. And here's a piece of cake for me, Jesus. And we would just have fun. And this was my friend. And I embraced him. And so throughout my childhood, even when I was going through some battles and some things that was happening, I would always know that Jesus was with me because he was my friend. Little did I know from a little girl that he wasn't imaginary. He was real, and he's still my friend. So when I was going through the homelessness, and I was living in dark places parked at Walmart, and get dark, and I'm tucked away, and I know those people were probably thinking, like, this lady is always at this store. Like, she's always at Walmart. Because I would go in there, and I would, just kind of walk around, just kind of get the time to pass by, or sometimes I would get, like, go to, like, one of those 24-hour McDonald's. Thank God for 24-hour McDonald's. They used to not have 24-hour McDonald's, but they got 24-hour McDonald's now, and 24-hour, that was clutch. 24-hour McDonald's, it came through for me. So, all those things, just try to pass time. And at the same time, believe in God. Because I always knew that maybe the next day, maybe tomorrow, something would change. Because see, that's the whole thing about believing. Yes. And knowing who you serve. Knowing that when God speaks a word, he is going to perform it. He is going to come through. God has never lied. I mean, people lie, and sometimes people lie unintentionally. They don't mean to lie. Some people do mean to lie. But sometimes their intentions are certain things, but they just can't come through. There's things that I wanted to do for my kids and wasn't able to do. And then, but the intentions was there. But God, when he speaks a word, it is what it is. And I just want to say, like, for Ask D, my platform, I have this saying: life does what it does. Now what will you do? Okay? Can you guys say that with me? Can I get it over it? Life does what it does. Now what will I do? Okay? So it's one thing when God says, you believe who God says you are. Okay? And you speak, but you have to speak what God says or who you are. So it's not good enough for God to say, okay, Bob, you are a financial whiz, and you are going to take the real estate market by storm. And then Bob says, I'm just Bob. I can't do it. That's too big. I can't handle that. That's not, he didn't mean me. He must mean another Bob. You have to say what God says about you. You have to believe who God says you are. And until you believe that, you're not going to go anywhere. Because that belief you have to believe it. And that's where things begin to change. And so for me, I never stopped believing. That's what got me out of it. And I remember just walking and I said, okay, God, here I am. It's just me. It's just me and you. If you could just keep my mind, I know I can get through this.
Yes, amen.
I know I can overcome this. And I don't know if you guys ever saw this movie. It's called Castaway. The most powerful part of that movie in Castaway is that he said he just kept breathing. That's it. He just kept breathing. He just didn't die. He just kept breathing. I remember coming to a point where I said, okay, today I'm giving up. Anytime you say you're giving up, you ain't giving up. Because I said, okay, I'm giving up today. And I was like, okay, God, I got to give up. And I remember standing in this room and I was just like, okay, what's the first thing I do? How do I give up? How? Okay, give up. And it's like, okay, give up. Give up. It doesn't happen like that. You've got enough breath in your body that you can say, I'm giving up. That same breath, okay, it's like people that say, okay, I'm going to die. I'm ready to die. Do you really want to die and not be a vessel for God? Because the only way he can use us is for us to be breathing, for us to live in. And there's no wasted tears. So everything that happens in our life, God can take it and use it for something and get something good out of it. So that's why I'm here. Because see, I know that just because I started my own company, by the way, so going back to the lady, the reason why you're having such a hard time finding a job is because you're not supposed to work for anybody. Well, that's what happened for me. And I started a business with $30. I started my own business. And from that, it just grew. God just opened up more things. I met the right people. Things started happening. Even the lady that I bought the house from, she was like, I don't do this. Why are we doing this? It was confusing to her, but I knew it was God. I knew what he was doing because he was creating the glory side of the story because they come together. So whenever you see people like Oprah, Oprah has a story. Tyler Perry, he has a story. So every one of you have a story. If you're young people, you're going to have your story. Your story may be in the working now, but at some point in your life, you're going to have a story. And speaking of a story, my son, who's about to sing in a little bit, he was diagnosed. The doctor said during the time that I was going through separation and all this stuff was going on, crazy stuff happened in my life. The doctor says that your son has a muscle disease. Now, he's in college. They sent him home from school, and they didn't know what was going on with him. But he had some twitching in his muscles and things that was happening. And so they tested him, and his muscles was just breaking down. He couldn't even get himself up off the floor. And, looking back, I remember him saying to me, Mom, I asked God to take me because I didn't want this to be the quality of my life. Now, prior to that, years before, my son, he's always been a singer. And I remember him saying, I want a testimony. Everybody else got a testimony. Why can't I have a testimony? And so he used to say that, just kind of jokingly, where's my testimony? You know what I'm saying? I sing, but I ain't got no testimony. Well, guess what? He now has a testimony. Glory, and a part of his testimony became a part of mine because I remember just, praying all the focus of everything that I was dealing with, the emotional things of, the separation, about to be divorced after so many years. I remember just being up at night and just rubbing on his legs, his arms, his muscles, just trying to relax him because he was always in pain. And the doctor said to me, he said, ma'am, your son has a muscle disease, but what we don't know is what the name of this muscle disease is. So we're going to test him for that, and then we'll find out. And I'm thinking, okay, so what's the treatment? They said muscle diseases are incurable. They only get worse. All we can do is keep him comfortable. So I'm thinking, okay, comfortable, what are you saying to me? You know, my son is 20 years old. What are you trying to, what are you saying to me as his mother? Like, what am I supposed to be accepting what you're saying? And so, but I knew God. And I'm a praying mama. Amen. I pray all the time. And I got a grandchild now that he's in the mix too. I was praying for him while he was in my daughter's womb, like every trimester. I was praying at every point of his development. I was praying different prayers of different things, his brain, everything. So I'm one of those mothers. But I also understand something else. There's life and death in the tongue.
Amen.
So I never said my son had a muscle disease. And I didn't even tell people what the doctor said because I didn't want them to say my son had a muscle disease.
Come on now.
Because see, sometimes you have to move in silence.
Yes,
you have to move in silence. Because there's times that God wants to do things and then the wrong person get their hands on your stuff, on your prayer in the middle of it. Come on now. Delay things. It won't deny it, but it can delay things and slow things down.
Glory.
So when I was going through that, I said, you know what? I can tell my family members. And then God healed my son, so we go back. I'm speeding things along because it's a long story. So we go back to the doctor, and this is when he's about to do the other test, the muscle biopsy. They're going to cut a piece of his muscle. But before that, he was like, let me just examine him again. And God was just doing his thing. The numbers changed, like through his blood work. The counts was coming up. And the doctor was like, you're like, this isn't. Like, and then he got so excited. He was like, young man, sit on the floor. Get up, get up. My son was doing all the stuff. He's like, he wasn't able to do that. Ma'am? He wasn't able to do that, was he, ma'am? And I was like, no, I'm your witness, doctor. I know he wasn't able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because now he's so excited. He didn't know what was going on, but it was God. I knew what was happening. And he was able to go back to school, finish, graduate. And God has done some amazing things in his life. He's been traveling. He did some teaching over in Colombia. Now he's a CMS teacher. He's a music teacher in the school district. So there's a lot of things that God has done. Now I'm telling you this because it doesn't matter who you are, at what place you're at, is that when you believe in your dad, when you know that you got a dad that can do all things, it is possible for each and every one of us. So, and I am so aware. It's like,
hallelujah.
When people say, how? What happened? I was like, it's God. Like, I can come here and I can say that. Now, there's people that I talk to professionally, and I can talk to them, and they see my story, and they know my story. It's like, Dee, what happened? Like, you have an amazing story. And I just tell them a little bit. But when I'm here, I can tell y'all everything. Because, see, y'all know. Y'all know. So you try to put a little professional spin on it. Yes, God is so good. But God is good. You understand what I'm saying? It's a difference when you're talking to your sisters and your brothers, because then it's like, look, if he did this for me, if he was in my neighborhood, if he's in the neighborhood, that means that everybody that's in the neighborhood, he's going to pass by. So it's just a matter of your belief. What do you believe? It says, again, going back to your Facebook page, believing in the promises of God.
Amen.
Now, here I am, coming from Youngstown, where poverty is just, it's a statistic. We're a statistic. We're like ranked number 5. Poorest city in the U.S. Second poorest city in Ohio. That means that there's some things that's just holding, that just don't want to break grip, that just want to let go of the people. Mentally, and economically, it doesn't want to set the people free. Spiritually, people struggle. But I'm going to tell you something. That just as in John 1:43, 46, actually, 1 and 46. When Nathanael said to Philip, can any good thing come out of Nazareth?
Come on now.
Uh-huh.
The little girl growing up in the project, being raised by a grade school dropout mother who was doing the best she could, where everything around me was saying that I was either going to end up on the streets, I was going to be pushing drugs, I was going to be in prostitution, something. But everything was against me because there was an oppression upon the city.
Well,
just gripping people, like just choking the life out of them.
Come on.
So I say, can any good thing come out of Youngstown, Ohio?
Lord.
Think about where you are. Can any good thing come out of that? Yes. That's the answer is yes. I'm not no way comparing myself to Jesus, but I will say this. That the thing that always stood out to me about this scripture was any good thing come out of Nazareth. Everybody's saying that nothing good comes out of all of this poverty and oppression. But if we believe in God and believe in the word that he spoke of our life, like every single one of us have a purpose. If we are here, there is a reason. I don't care even if it's just a smile at somebody that needs a smile and then you just
Glory.
You know what I'm saying? That's your purpose. Whatever your purpose is, whatever your destiny is, to find that thing.
Amen.
And believe it. Because see, these young people are millennials. I call them millennials. Society calls them some millennials, but I say it like in a joking way because it's really funny to me, the name millennials. And so because I raised millennials, my son is like, Mom, you're always coming for us millennials. Like, why are you coming for the millennials? But the millennials, they're fearless. They have technology, there's knowledge, there's things, they got social media, there's things that so it's either going to go one way or the other. Yeah. Either they are going to take this world by storm. When God get a hold of to a millennial, they use Facebook, they use Instagram, all these things, all these platforms to preach the word of God, to spread the word of God. If something is going on, something is trending, it's out on Twitter, the word gets out there. So imagine the revival that will break out amongst the millennials. When God get a hold of them, so to understand that the power that they have.
Come on now.
And so I believe that God is going to do something. It is going to be a different move. It is going to be something different that we had never experienced before. But then we have to be open for it and understand that when God says something, it is what it is. And he has a plan. He's very intentional. Remember, walking, I ain't got no car. Blood pressure going down because I ain't got no blood pressure medication. And they took me off of blood pressure medicine.
Come on.
And I went to the doctor talking about preserving. God has purpose. And he's not done yet. Amen. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to look back and be like, wow, God, you did it because of this? How did you turn this into this? And, and I was just in New York City. I've traveled a lot this year. Had never before this year, 2018, I'd never been on a plane. Never been on a plane. Just I don't know. This little young city girl didn't get nowhere. You remember where I came from? Y'all know the story. Yeah. I told you. So it wasn't like, we got in a car for vacation.
Amen.
No matter how long, so we packed the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because they last longer. And if you cook the chicken at the right time, you can get some, you can make that chicken stretch for a while. So all those kind of things. That was vacation. So this year, but God has just done a lot of things and doors have been opening, and I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share that with you guys. And I'm going to have my son come up here because this is the one that the enemy tried to take out. He asked for a testimony. He got a testimony.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
And I just wanted to thank you guys because in Habakkuk 2:2, it says that to write the vision on the tablets and to make it plain. So I'm going to challenge you guys, because before we leave here, I have a piece of paper, and I'm going to also give you one of my cards. I'll attach one of my cards to it. And on that paper, the card is not to promote myself. I'm not selling anything. But I want you to remember D. When you see that card, remember me, remember my story, remember that I was the one that was just homeless, and how my life has turned around, and all the things that God is doing. And I'm working on the book now, and I don't know what all God is going to do, but I know he did everything for his glory. Because see, when the world has people that they can look at and they look like they're successful, but they're serving the devil, then what does God's children think? Like, my daddy can't do nothing for us? Like, what about our side? What about our people?
Come on.
And so that is why, I had an old lady tell me that. She was like, God is going to bless you with some stuff. Because when God said that, there was prophets that was telling me that I was going to get this house and it was going to be like this and that and the other. I was like, I don't need all that. I don't need all that. But then I went to a man of God and I told him about it, and he said, well, if you don't want it, God will give it to somebody else. He said, because let me tell you something. He said the reason why God does things the way he does them is because he needs to get on his people in strategic places where he can actually have them to minister to people that would otherwise not listen to them.
Come on now.
Okay? So I'm sitting up just this past week. I'm at this, supposed to be the third best steakhouse in the country. I don't know. And so, but one of the business associates that I do business with in New York took me to this restaurant, and we're sitting there, and I had a sit back moment where I sat back and I was like, okay, God, like, wow, this is so fancy. This is so fancy. Because when you in a place like that, you can't act like you ain't never been there.
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm just being real with y'all, because y'all my sisters and brothers, so I'm just telling you. So I had that sit back moment. And I looked at the menu, and the appetizer was like $45. And I was like, woo! And he was like, he had this American Express card. He's like, oh, the company is paying for everything, blah, 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 So I was like, okay, company's paying for everything. He's like, okay, D. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get the appetizer, get something to drink, and then I'm good. Like, can I get some? I got the sparkling water. I got the fancy stuff. They brought the bottle out, and it was fancy, like that sparkling water. They had it all in a bucket and everything, just water, but it was a sparkling water. So, they put it in there, and everything was all nice, and then I was looking at that time. He was like, aren't you going to order from the entree? Like, aren't you going to get an entree? And I was like, you got to get an entree. I was like, let me get one of those fillets, I'll take that 10 ounce. I was like, I take that 10 ounce. So these are the things that I'm like experiencing now. The little, the little poor girl, the peanut butter. My mama used to take me to that big white house that gave away the free clothes that smelled like mothballs and stuff. So it's been a journey.
Lord.
And this journey can happen. It can be anybody, and I'm not there yet, but God is doing something in my life, and I'm going to continue to let him do it. So there is some glory now to the story, and prayerfully there'll be more glory and more glory, but I got to show, this is our daddy, y'all. This is him.
Amen.
Like, this is him. This is him doing this stuff.
Glory.
Like, this is him. And it's every single one of us have that opportunity to just let God do it.
Amen.
Believe him in the process. When you are going through something, remember D. So going back to the paper. So we get that. I'm going to give each one of you this paper. Write it down. Make it plain. Believe God. Because that has worked for me more times than I can tell you. That's one thing I can count on. That when I write something down, if God speaks something to me, or even a desire, because God knows the desires of your heart. Write it down, make it plain. But you have to believe it. That's the difference. You know how the song was talking about, I believe, I believe, I believe? Yes. You have to believe it. Because it's not enough for me to believe it for you.
That's right. Come on.
Because if you don't believe it, because if you believe you're sick, and we're saying you're healed, and you're saying, no, I'm sick, then you know what? Your words are going to outweigh mine. Because it's on you. It's your mindset. It's your belief. So you have to believe that. And so write it down. Write what you believe and say it. Because I'm going to tell y'all, life and death in the tongue. We're going to go back to that. The world has taken it. They call it words of affirmation. They tell the kids to teaching you words of affirmation. All it is the Bible told us is life and death. They told us. The Bible gave us the answer.
Yes, it did.
We got the answer. This is not a trick quiz or anything. Nobody's trying to trick us. We was told life and death in the tongue. Words, I believe it. We wear it like a garment.
Amen.
We wear it like a jacket. That's how powerful it is. It's real.
That's
When
right.
we speak it into existence.
Right.
I have seen it. People that believe that why do you think some athletes are better than others? They say, because they're confident. Why are they confident? Because they say, I got this.
Amen.
I'm the best. I'm better than this one.
Well.
I'm greater. So they believe it, and that's the difference. That's the difference. That's what gives them the edge, is because of their belief.
Well.
People call it confidence. They say they're cocky. No, they believe. Like, I'm not kidding. I am the greatest basketball player that ever stepped on this court. You showed me. No, you showed me. Those are the ones that you see in the NBA.
Come on.
Amen.
Their belief got them there.
Uh-huh.
That's how powerful words are. Tim, come on, son. I'm going to have him to go there. And I thank you all. And I'm going to let Tim go ahead and minister to you all.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Before I sing my song, I just like to say that it's been incredible watching the journey of my mom. It's been really cool, and seeing how many people are so surprised. But I, for one, am not all that surprised, because I know the heart that she has.
Amen.
And I also know that God, He always looks at the heart. God is always looking for those hearts that are pure, those hearts that are for Him, those hearts that have good intentions. And one of my favorite Psalms, it's in 139, verses 22, maybe 23 and 24, I think. And it says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in your way, the everlasting way."
Amen.
And I believe that that God is always looking for hearts that He can use. He's always looking for vessels who have those pure hearts.
Come on now.
Who have those pure intentions, those pure desires.
Amen.
And God can do anything with those people.
Amen.
He's looking for the heart. And no matter where that heart was, my mother, she was homeless, but God was still seeing that heart.
Amen.
And He still said, I want to use that heart. Amen. So I just want to sing a song. Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, your hands have provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Summer and winter, springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, your hands have provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow, blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, your hands have provided. Oh, great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
Glory. Glory.
Bring it up, Mike. I want you to tell us the rest of the story. We got to find out what you're doing now. Give her the mic, the best monologue. And look, this young man here, what you're looking at now, you're looking at the word that was spoken in his life, that was made right because of how it was handled. And now the sickness that was there was real. But where is it now? Great is our what? Faithfulness. As he's singing for the glory of God. But we got to let you finish telling, come on back up and finish telling us what you're doing there. Because God's going to get the glory,
Yes,
and
sir.
we need to hear the rest of the story.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what I'm doing now is, I started my own business, $30, and it was just enough to register the business with $1 extra for parking.
Wow.
And I was like, and it's in a hurry. I was in a hurry because I thought I was going to get locked into that garage. But I stepped out on faith, and that's what it was. It was just a faith thing, and I started a company. It's called Impact Financial Solutions, and I work with business owners, helping them get funding. I broker deals. I also work with investors who buy properties and fix and flip properties, commercial properties, buildings like that. And then right now I'm in the process, I'm going to go back, get my real estate license so that I can also add that service and a couple other things that I'm working on. And, so God is just doing it. He's doing it. And the doors has just been opening up. And I've been blessed with some great clients and more people, just referrals, because everything is based on relationship. Relationship marketing is where it is, really. When you just build a relationship with people, and I love people. Always have been a people person. People call me that. They say I'm a people person, but I just love everybody. Even just going through the things that I've went through, I just was thinking, how can I help this person? What can I do? No wasted tears. Amen. That there be no wasted tears. All the tears that I cried, and I felt like I was thrown in the middle of a Lifetime movie, because this can't be happening to me and things like that. But God has been doing it, and I didn't mention my business because I'm not here to promote my business. I'm not looking for customers. I'm here to give what I have. I don't have much to give other than what God gave me, and that was my story. Amen. And then to show you that there is glory to whatever you're going through. There's another side to it. It attaches itself. I'm telling you, look at Steve Harvey when he was homeless. Amen. See, I'm throwing out names that I know people know, but there's so many of us. You know, there's mom and pop on the corner who's maybe their store was about to go out of business, but God, something happened and they were able to keep their store open. Just all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be something really big and spectacular. But my glory and your glory is different. Your story and my story is different. And all of these young people, they're going to go through something, but these young people, I'm scared of them. They bad. Like those millennials, they're no joke. And my little grandson's like, he's 1 year old, he's doing all this stuff, and I showed Kenny, like there's this video of him where he actually looks like he said, hey, YouTube, he's 1. Like, I'm like, hey, YouTube. So I showed it to Kenny, Mary's son. I was like, Kenny was like, millennial babies, Miss Denise, millennial babies. He said, those babies, like, they coming out like they knowing technology and stuff, you know? Amen. How many little kids that don't know how to use a cell phone? And so it's just blowing my mind, the opportunities that are there. And so the business, it's doing well, and I'm expecting to go and kind of branch off into Canada this year. That's kind of a big thing, and I keep setting goals for myself. So just like I mentioned you guys setting goals, this being perfect time to set goals because we're going into a new year, new possibilities. You know, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't take much. You know, people that want to start a business on social media, I mean, I'm not here to talk business, but just there's opportunities there. There's ways to make money. Like, you know, I had a young man to contact me. He was doing some marketing for me out of Florida. And what did he do? He knew social media. And so he was doing some marketing for me from social media, and I hired him for that. So think about, you know, the different types of businesses and how many people could use your service. Young people, you know, social media. That's a talent. That's a gift. People will pay you for your knowledge of social media. So there's ways for you guys to, you know, to just branch off your own and start your own. I believe in entrepreneurship. I mean, I started my own business just selling, you know, health products when I was 16. I wasn't supposed to because I was too young to sign that contract. But nobody told me that I was too young, so I signed it. And I started selling products, you know. And I'm selling to family members and stuff like that. So, you know, dream big. Don't stop believing, and believe in yourself most of all. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will.
Right. Amen.
You know, and people, no matter where you start, no matter what you go through. Like I said, I went through some stuff as a kid. I tried to commit suicide when I was 11 years old, and again, that's book stuff. Because I don't have time to get into all the stuff that I came out of. But to God be the glory, because I'm here to tell you this. You know, I could have been cut off a long time ago. I could have been taken out while I was living in my car or just, you know, whatever. But God wanted me to be here for a reason, and I was here, and I was coming from New York yesterday and hitting the road shortly after I went to see Kenny. And so I was driving through the roads. I'd never been to Fayetteville before, so I'm riding down some roads that are just foreign to me, and they got a lot of back roads, and the speed goes up and down and up and down. Y'all know, y'all live 35, 45, 55. I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, this is Fayetteville, and it's dark, and I was like, okay, God. Sure you want me to go? And then the people at the Cracker Barrel wasn't too friendly to me at all. No, it's not friendly. I wasn't asking for no refills. I wasn't asking for that. I just wanted to get out. So I was like, Fayetteville is different. This is Fayetteville. I live in Charlotte. Lived from up north, Ohio, and then I spent some time, 8 years in Texas for ministry was there. So I've had different type of people, like knowledge of different spirits, personalities, that Southern hospitality and no Southern hospitality, you know, so a little bit of everything. But thank you guys so much for having me here. I'm glad that I came to Fayetteville. Now I can put that on check that off my list. I've been to Fayetteville. And I don't know if I'll ever make it back, but just Happy New Year's to you guys. And remember, Tim's going to pass out, again, a sheet of paper. It's going to have my card attached to it. And, send me an email if you want to, if you have a question, because AskD.info is a platform where people can ask questions and share testimonies. Like, that's a big thing, because we're giving God the glory. Because what you have, somebody else may need it.
That's right.
And you can help somebody else, and there's somebody else that will help you. So it's just kind of like bringing things together. And yes, sir, that's it.
Okay, let's give the Lord a praise clap. Thank you so much for the beautiful word today. Stand to your feet and give God a real praise clap. Come on, everybody. Let's give her for coming. Now, what happened? You heard what she said. You can be seated. You heard what she said about Fayetteville, right? Huh? You heard what she said? Even though Fayetteville may not have received her the way she should have been received, we have at Unity, have we not? We have received her. And how many people know that was a word from God, that God sent her among us? And how many people know relationships? Relationships are very important. How many times do we neglect relationships? It's very important to be friendly and to treat people the way we want to be treated. And thank God, the way I look at it is when God sends someone in the house, that we need to know that's God, and we need to understand. There's a lot of people that has been spoken to about their dreams and visions. Should back the word up that we've already spoken in here about how important it is to have faith, especially sickness. I mean, there's people that are sick that's going to stay sick if they don't understand that sickness is under authority. There's authority over sickness.
Amen.
There's authority over the thunderstorm. There's authority over the weather. God has authority over everything. There's some authority over poverty. Everything that was created by God is under authority of God. Sickness is under authority. You understand that? Sickness is under authority. So let's stand to your feet. I want to get the young man up here for prayer.